White supremacy is disgusting. The fact that people can come out in an interview and say, yeah, I'm a racist and I think that certain people should die because of who they are, and not immediately be punished for this in some way, is disgusting. Now, freedom of speech, I get it, they're allowed to say that. But the fact that people do not feel ashamed of this, that people are proud and think that they're right in thinking these things, is disgusting and unacceptable. Now that I've gotten that out of the way, hi viewers, my name's Kara. I'm your host for Tuesdays here on the Pagan Perspective, and this week we are talking about white supremacists and the fact that some white supremacists, over a shocking number of years, for the fact that we're just now talking about this more and more, but it's been happening for years, the fact that a number of white supremacists claim to be Odinists and claim that Odinism is a perfect religion for white supremacists and racists who believe that white people are the pure race and that everyone else needs to be eradicated. So we're talking about not the most fun topic this week, but definitely an important topic. So I want to thank highfantasy-soul for bringing this up. The text is in the description as always, and it reads, "Hi guys, recently religious extremism as an excuse for terroristic acts has been a hot topic. As someone who studies criminology, I know that white supremacy and radical political views are much more likely to lead someone to commit a terroristic act, especially in America. But I was shocked to find out that many of these white supremacists actually claim to adhere to pagan religions such as Odinism." They then also gave us 2 articles talking about this kind of thing, giving us examples of it. And the question is, well, so they said, "I've seen several news articles talking about this, and most don't accurately portray Odinism, but rather describe it in a way that makes it seem as though it's a custom fit for violent white supremacists. Could you all talk about what role the pagan community should have in educating people on what pagan religions such as Odinism truly are, and our role in calling out religious extremists in our own communities?" And then they gave us the 2 articles as an example. So, where to begin? All right, well, the articles I encourage you to read, even though they're kind of disgusting, like I said, in the way that people can just come out and say, like, yep, here's my name, here's who I am, I'm a real person, and I go about my day thinking that people should die because of who they are. That's not okay with me, that people think that way, but obviously I can't immediately change the way they think. But what we can do is, as this person is saying, educate people about what these religions actually are. And so what is our role in that? That's the real focus here. I think my opinion on white supremacy is pretty darn clear. I think it's bullshit, and I think that people really need to realize and think about the fact that, genealogically speaking, there's no such thing as white people being a pure race. We all came from something else. Evolution is a thing. And there have actually been white supremacists who have been part of studies who have been asked to take one of these, like Ancestry DNA or 23andMe, the DNA tests that tell you where your DNA is from, and realize that their DNA is actually from Africa or from Asia or from somewhere. And so these ideas that they are a pure European-centric race and that they've always been that throughout their lifetimes and throughout their family's history, because a lot of this is about bloodlines and feeling connected to their bloodline, realizing that their bloodline actually is not as pure as they think it is, leads some people to be able to think twice about these horrible views that they have come to hold. So one, I think that people should have to do that. I think that people should really have to have a bigger picture and a better understanding of where we came from, and that we really are more connected than we are led to believe. But as far as the role that we can play, I am not a Norse pagan. And I'm going to argue that that is one of the reasons why I need to do even more to educate myself, to make sure that when things like this come up, that I know what to say to defend my Nordic brothers and sisters who are not white supremacists and who are not racists and who find these things disgusting as well. Because I have a lot of Norse pagan friends. It does seem to be a really popular, really big group of pagans, at least in my area. The people that I tend to know tend to be Wiccan based or Norse practitioners. Those are the two biggest groups that I run into. Now, there are definitely druids, there are Hellenic practitioners, there are Kemetic practitioners, chaos magicians, all of these things. But I would say that probably the biggest ones that I run into are Wiccan based practitioners and general witches and Norse pagans. So many of my good friends who are 110 million% against hate and, anti-racism and try to do as much as they can to combat these things are Norse pagan. And so I need to do even more because it's not my view. I need to make sure that I know what's going on with all of this and know what I need to be saying to people to educate them, to make sure that people understand, as these articles point out, which I appreciate, that the white supremacists calling themselves Odinists and calling themselves Norse practitioners are racists in the first place, right? So a lot of these people who are being quoted in these interview articles, they're talking about the fact that they've always been racist and they used to be Christian. And it's the fact that Christianity preaches love and all these other things that to them made it seem not right for them, because they don't believe in loving thy neighbor. They believe in killing people who are unlike you. So what they did is they looked for a religion that they thought would fit that better. They were racist before they were Odinists, okay? So they just found this thing that they thought looks like for white people by white people and clung on to it. But that is not what made them racists. They were already racist, they were already white supremacists, and they are confused, and they are being recruited. Like in these articles, it explains how some people are going and finding these white supremacists in prison and teaching them their racist vision of Odinism and teaching people that that's what it is. And if that's what you're told that it is and you don't know anything else, I mean, we always hope that people will do research and learn more things instead of just listening to what one person says, but that's not what everyone does. If someone hands you like, hey man, this is a religion that's perfect for us, it means we can be as racist as we want, heck yeah, man, they're gonna go for it. And, they're not on YouTube watching Pagan Perspective finding out that that's not the case. And so that's what we need to do, I guess, is just continue our education and make sure that we know what to say and not leave it up to just our Norse pagan brothers and sisters and siblings of non-gender conforming natures. That if we just say, oh, well, that's not my path, so I don't know, I'm gonna leave it up to them, that puts a lot of emotional labor and a lot of intellectual labor on that group to defend itself. This is a big community. Even though it's not my particular path, it's part of my community, man. So I'm going to do what I can to make sure that the entire community is seen for what it is. And I'm not saying that we're perfect, and I'm not saying that we don't have some things that we disagree with each other on for good reasons that don't harm people. But making sure that people know what's up. And that this is a fringe group, this is a small amount of people, just as terrorists who do things in the name of other religions are a small group of all of the adherents to that religion, and frequently are not actually adhering to the religion and what it really says, but just claiming to. And the fact that they're so loud about their beliefs means that the general public takes it for what they say and believes that that's what it is and doesn't necessarily do further research. That leads people to believe things that are not true. I am getting off on a tangent because I'm just taking my train of thought and going with it. But essentially, making sure that we are educated so that we know what to say is important. Oh, I was saying that just because these are such small portions doesn't mean that we can just discount them and ignore them and say, well, whatever, there's just a few of them, they're crazy, let's just leave them out of it and don't talk about them, because they are loud and they are actually committing terroristic acts, and they are in the media, and they are convincing other people to believe what they believe. So we need to be just as loud with educating people that that is not what these things are about, that this is racism in the first place, it's white supremacy in the first place, and that they searched for what they thought fit. And anyone can do that with any religion, right? We talk about that all the time with the Bible, that people can quote different parts of the Bible and be arguing two totally separate sides of an argument, and they can find something in the Bible that makes it sound right. Because you can twist anything to be what you need it to be. If you're really that manipulative and you want to convince people to believe the way that you believe, you will find a way to do it. So, these people found this and thought, oh, what a great thing for us. We can just be this now. And another point that I want to make is that it really saddens me that this is happening, because it does cause the general public and even other pagans to associate this with this branch of paganism. And it means that I have friends who actually do know that Norse paganism branches of all types are not inherently racist or white supremacist, and yet they are now afraid to use the same symbols anymore. The fact that white supremacists are using Norse symbols and claiming to be Norse pagans or Odinists specifically means that some non-racist Norse practitioners feel afraid to wear their own symbols anymore. And, their Thor's hammer or the Valknut or their tattoos of whatever, it makes people afraid to be who they are now, because they're going to be lumped in as this racist group, that they don't want people to look at them and think, oh, that person must be a racist, because we know that that is what these people being so loud and open about their racist views and claiming this religion as being racist, that is causing people to think that that's all it is. So this is a subject that really bothers me, as well it should. And so, just to make sure that I'm really focusing on what the question was, what role should the pagan community have in educating people? Yeah, I think we need to educate ourselves first so that we are able to educate others when the situation arises. And I think that we need to recognize the fact that we are being representative of this whole community. Even if we don't want to be, people see us as representatives. And so my advice for people who maybe don't want to have to act as that type of teacher, maybe you don't know a whole lot about it yet and you don't feel comfortable educating people, say that. Say, I might not know exactly that much about it right now because I haven't done a lot of research, but I know that it's not inherently racist, and I know that there are resources online about it. So I encourage you to look up, and maybe have some websites in mind that you've looked up that you can refer people to and let them do their own reading if you don't want to be the one doing that exact labor of teaching and educating directly. Find some resources online that you can share with people, and just be able to articulate that type of ideology is not okay with you, and it's not okay with the majority of pagans, and that we do not consider that core to our beliefs as a community. And we hope that people will do their further research and realize that. And and our role in calling out religious extremists in our own communities. Yeah, so if we actually see that happening, which luckily I have not encountered, but if we do see that happening, I haven't encountered that exact thing, but I have encountered people just generally being hateful toward other groups in my community, and that comes down to being like, hey, that's not cool. Like, that's not what we're about, you know? Like, stop. And being okay with telling people, like, dude, not cool. Not cool. So, that's my view on the subject in a nutshell. And thank you, highfantasy-soul, for asking us to talk about this. Thank you for sharing those articles, because as angry as they made me, I want to be informed. I want to be informed about this stuff. One of the things, I was just looking over the articles again briefly before starting this video, talked about that one of these guys like published something about these views of his in 1999, and no one really gave it a lot of credence at that point, but now that it's becoming more of a thing, people are talking about it. I was 9 then, and this stuff was happening, you know, and it's like, this stuff has been happening forever, and I just lived in a little sheltered bubble and didn't know that. And I'm very happy that we can at least see things for what they are now, because when you can see a problem and you can name a problem, you can begin to work towards solving that problem. And that's what this is. So thank you so much for watching this. I really appreciate all of you being here and joining in dialogue with all of us, everybody on the team. I know that sometimes we do fun topics, and sometimes we just talk about the things that we like and that we do and that we don't do, and it's no big deal. And other times we talk about really politically charged things, really socially charged things that are important to talk about, because it does affect all of us, even if we're not on this particular path or any particular path being targeted at any given time. We are a community, and what affects one part of our community affects us all. So thank you all for being here, for being informed, and if you find some other resources that are good information, if it is your path and you have some really great resources that you'd like those of us who don't follow that path to read so that we have a better idea and we can have some talking points, please share, and let's keep doing the good work, guys. I love you all. I love our community. We can do great things together, even when our views don't exactly match up, which is most of the time, and that's part of what's beautiful about us. I love you. I will see you next time, and until then, don't forget to be awesome and decrease world suck. Blessed be, and goodbye.